How are you? I hope you are doing well this week as well. Um, we are actually looking at our final week, which is week 6 lecture, where we'll be looking at the sustainability of tourism. Where will be looking at is it possible to achieve sustainable tourism? What is it that we can do to achieve sustainable tourism, and what are the importances of achieving sustainability in tourism industry? So we will move on to our lecture. Sustainability of tourism. UNESCO World Heritage Sites have become important travel destinations around the world that, if managed properly, can have great potential impact for local economic development and long-term sustainability. So what we're saying here is that the UNESCO World Heritage Sites and other heritage sites, they've got a potential to boost the economies of the countries. So if they are properly managed and with the sustainability of tourism taken into place, so they can actually play a very their good management by their good management instead by all the involved stakeholders or lead to long-term sustainability. When managed responsibly, tourism can be a driver for preservation and conservation of cultural and natural heritage, and a vehicle for sustainable progress. So here what we're saying is that if they are managed properly or responsible, if tourism is managed and responsible, checking all the side effects, all the disadvantages that are being brought into the cultural heritage or any cultural heritage resource, if they are dealt with on time before they cause any further damage, they can play a great role in promoting preservation and conservation of these sites. So what we're saying is, since tourism is playing a big role in helping the countries or the host community to gain revenue, to gain capital, it is that same capital that is being generated by the tourism industry that will help to boost the preservation and the conservation programs or any other programs that may be related to the upkeep of the site. So it plays a great role by bringing the cash that helps to facilitate these preservation and conservation programs. So each is benefiting from each other here. The conservation and preservation is benefiting from the tourism by the use of the cash or the use of the money that is being generated by tourism, and tourism is benefiting in a sense that the tourists, they come there to these sites that are properly conserved, that are properly preserved, whereby the tourists will be consuming the products of these cultural and historic resources. So it's a 50-50. It means that if the tourism is not doing well, then the preservation and the conservation processes will be very difficult to be implemented. So it has to be 50-50. When the tourism is doing good, it means that if the monies are properly channeled to these projects, it means that the preservation and the conservation will also be doing good as well. How to achieve sustainable tourism? It is important that the uniqueness and the authenticity of the place stay the same for the generations to come. As we know that the main reason why we talk about sustainable tourism to cultural heritage resources is because we want to keep these sites for the next generation, so that the next generation will pass them to the generation, because these cultural resources, they are a legacy that needs to be passed from one generation to the other. So it is important that the authenticity or the real site has to be kept for the next generations to the next generations. So we have to keep that into mind, that if we talk about practicing sustainable tourism, we're doing that so that the authenticity of the site remains. The site do not get degraded. The environment do not get degraded. The values of the site still remain the same, still remain important. So that's how we integrate sustainable tourism into conservation and preservation. Is to maintain the authenticity of the site, to maintain the values of the site, to maintain the uniqueness of the site. Follow an integrated approach to planning and management of land resources. This implies that all stakeholders should work together and that the development of the area should take into consideration the economic, social, and environmental impacts. In doing so, poverty elevation can also be addressed in a sustainable manner. Stakeholders in the area include government, communities, product owners, and the investors. So this is what is meant here, that when we're planning the management of these land resources, all stakeholders should be considered, as I've been preaching about the involvement of the local custodians, the owners of the heritage. I may say the primary owners of the heritage. It is very important that they are taken into consideration. They are educated. They are made alert about the importance of their heritage. So this means that it has to consider these three aspects. It has to consider whatever development that should take place instead. It has to consider three aspects, which are economic aspects, social aspects, and environmental impact. So it is very important to address those things, because if the development within these heritage and cultural heritage resource centers, if they are not being considered or taken into consideration, the site can be shut down because it would have lost all its values. In doing so, poverty alleviation can also be addressed in a sustainable manner. Stakeholders in the area include the government, the communities, the product owners, and the investors. So here we are now mentioning all the stakeholders that are involved, or all the stakeholders that participate in development of the cultural resources, so that the poverty is being alleviated to the people, more revenues being raised into the country. So usually the most stakeholders that needs to be taken into consideration, or the most concerned stakeholders, is the government, the local communities, the product owners, the NGOs, the investors, so on and so on. All these stakeholders, they need to be informed. All these owners, they need to partake. All these owners, these stakeholders, they need to have that information about the heritage, how to preserve the heritage, how to help to achieve sustainable tourism. Protect and promote human health in the area. So this is what is supposed to be done to protect the human health in that area. Promote education and training in the area. As I have mentioned in my past lecture, that it has to promote the education and training in the area. For example, we can train tour guides within the local communities that will help to produce a quality product there, that helps to have a sustainable tourism in that area. Promote sustainable human settlements development in the area. For example, you know, if a place, or let me say, if a cultural heritage resource area generates a lot of income, we see quite a number of people coming from different regions, people from different, I may say, people from different areas coming to settle closer, because they are running away from the challenges from their places. They know that now there is better life, or there is a better living standard, there are better opportunities for jobs. People come to settle there. The moment people settle there, you discover that more and more land is being utilized for development, human settlement. Sometimes in some other places you find temporary structures being built around the area. You find people building their houses improperly, thereby destroying the authenticity of the site, because the site has to remain authentic regardless of how much people need to settle around the site. So it has to remain authentic, and it actually dilutes the real cultural attributes of that area. So the more different people, for example, if you go to Victoria Falls, there you'll find quite a number of languages that are being spoken in that area. And if you discover that most of those languages that are being spoken there, you find that there are people that are coming from very far, as far as Mashonaland. The people that are coming as far as Plumtree, you'll find that there are people who are speaking very different languages. So that on its own, it actually impacts on the quality of the product. Remember, when tourists come there, they expect they would have read about the history of that area, the history of the people around there. So they expect to get the local languages, so that they really get a true appreciation of who those local communities are there, what kind of language is being spoken there. So it is very important that sustainable tourism addresses such issues. That's when we can be in a point to say we are able to achieve sustainable development in that manner. Let's just go to the next point, which is to promote sustainable agriculture and rural development. Establish a system that guarantees supply that is in line with fair trade in tourism. So this is very important. All the systems that guarantee supply that is in line with fair trade in tourism, it maintains the sustainability. It actually helps instead to achieve the sustainable tourism, because if the trade is not fair, for example, you will find there people that will be trading there with their local crafted goods. So if they do not follow or if they do not sell or do business suit with the fair trades in tourism, it will actually lead to unsustainability, to unsustainable tourism. So for example, if you go there, you'll find that there is a lot of exchange of foreign currencies there. So I remember there was once a time whereby the exchange rate would differ. You go to this some party, you get a different different exchange rate. You go to that one, you get a different exchange rate, and that one it impacts negatively in terms of achieving sustainable tourism. Include sustainable tourism alternatives in your trip. So this one is simple on that one. Go green at your hotel. For example, if you get into a hotel, you are there maybe to stay for about 2 days, you can still use the same sheets, you can still use the same bedding, rather than getting new beddings or getting fresh beddings every day. It helps to stay green there. Reduce your carbon footprint. You know, Victoria Falls has such a problem of carbon because of a lot of people that visit the area. So you can try by all means, all the other means of trying to reduce the carbon footprint. Say no to illegal trade. That helps as well to achieve sustainable tourism, because as you know that we are having a wildlife park there. So illegal trade leads to quite a lot of issues to do with poaching. If a tourist can come there and conduct the illegal trade of rhinoceros horns, or maybe the elephant horns, or whatsoever there, it means that it will help. In fact, it will lead to a lot of poaching, which the area has experienced some time back, where there was an issue of cyanide poisoning that was being poured onto the animal ponds, and most animals there that drank that poison had died. So it led to a lot of poaching that in that area. So all this come with illegal trade. So if we consider and say no to illegal trade, it will help to maintain, or it will help to achieve sustainable tourism in that area. Support sustainable options in islands destinations. Take care of heritage places. As a tourist, or as a visitor, it is very important that we have to take care of the heritage place. You find some places they've got a challenge of plastic there. They've got animals there that comes near people. They've got issues of water pollution. So it is very important that as a visitor there, or as a tourist there, you have to take care of the place. You shouldn't just throw litter around. Tourists shouldn't just throw plastics around. They have to follow the procedure and take part in preserving and taking care of the heritage places. Challenge yourself to step outside of your comfort zone. There are some areas whereby whereby a visitor, or I may say a tourist, has to step outside his or her comfort zone, so as to try and save the heritage there. For example, instead of someone going to eat in these very expensive restaurants or very expensive hotels there, you can support the local the local people there who produce some food, who produce some traditional food there. It helps. You can step outside of your comfort zone there and have something that is cheaper, and by doing so you are promoting the local people. You are promoting those that are struggling. The next point is support community-based tourism and initiatives. So there are community-based tourism initiatives that are being done. For example, you'll find there are people there who are making some campaigns there about protecting the area, about maybe people who will be singing, people will be reciting slogans, discouraging the issues to do with pollution, land pollution, the issues to do with poaching, the issues to do with illegal trade. So taking part in those in those things, it actually helps to achieve sustainable tourism. And the other issue that can be done is like if you see a local somebody there selling something around the area that is related to the area, buy there so that you support, buy there so that we maintain the trade there. It is very important that, if, for example, if you see someone is maybe someone is making an initiative to do a performance there, and the person is lacking economically, let's support those people. The tourists will support those people so that they can do well and play a great role in achieving sustainable tourism. Respect the local practices, or respect the practices of the local people. It is very important to note that most of the heritage places, they are being preserved by the taboos and the myths are about the areas. So sometimes tourists, when they get into a place, you tell them here you're supposed to walk barefooted. Sometimes it is difficult for somebody to adhere to that, but it is actually that taboo that helps to keep that place. I remember there was once a place in Zimbabwe, it's a forest in Zimbabwe that's called Rambagurimo. In that area there are a lot of fruits. So when you eat the fruits there, you do not take out the fruits don't take fruits with yourself. You just eat the fruits there, you leave everything there. You do not take any firewood from that place. So sometimes you'll find the tourists are willing to go out with the fruits from the area. So you have to just eat the fruits, you leave the fruits there. So that's how that's how the area is being preserved. There is also a place that is a rain-making shrine there in Matebele land. It's called Tinjelele. That place is being preserved by the taboos there. So tourists have to respect those practices. They have to respect the practices of the local people, because they've got a reason why those practices are put into place, because they actually help to sustain tourism in that area, and they play a great role in the preservation and conservation of those areas. Because if the moment I understand nowadays, I may say we are actually living in a what if generation. The generation for today is called a what if generation. You tell them do not do that, they ask what if I do it. So it is very important that the visitors, or I may say the tourists, they have to respect the practices of the local people. Reuse of bags, use or reusable bags. That one is simple. Use of reusable bags. Use it once again, time and again, time and again. It helps to protect the environment, to help to deal with the issues of pollution there. Challenges to promoting sustainable tourism. Working with local authorities and getting approval often takes a very long time, and some authorities make it hard for communities to start these initiatives by instituting purposefully complicated and difficult processes. So it is very, very, sometimes it becomes very difficult to deal with some authorities, as they make it difficult for that process. So it actually delays, and it actually negatively impacts achieving sustainable tourism in that area. People residing in areas where ecotourism is possible are often illiterate and lack the skill to make it happen. Training can take time. So in most circumstances, you will discover that most of the cultural heritage resources, they are within the premises, or they are within the vicinities of the local people. I may say the rural people, and those rural people, they are illiterate and they do not have the skill about preservation and about training in terms of preserving the areas. So that training, to train them, it actually takes time, as sometimes they may feel that the responsible stakeholders are actually taking their heritage away, or they sometimes feel that the responsible stakeholders or the government, I may say, is actually repossessing their land. So it takes time for them to understand. It takes time for them to get into the system and get trained, so that they know that that thing is actually done to benefit them. Communities often do not have the money to sustain the services they provide. So when support is gone, the program disappears. For example, I will mention especially Zimbabwe. We are having an economic challenge. The economy is not doing well. So the local communities, they do not have enough money to sustain services they provide. So you'll find that some of the programs just end up nowhere. They just disappear, and when disappearing like that, it means that the heritage is being affected negatively. Struggles for control over natural resources, such as land concessions, can cause problems in ecotourism areas. When developers start cutting down the trees and building on the land, the places lose its ecotourism potential. So sometimes the development can actually pose a great threat to ecotourism, as it is being mentioned here, that cutting down trees on the land and the places make the place lose its ecotourism potential. Lack of knowledge and access to material needed can put a definite halt to the development of ecotourism. Local people often do not have the resources or knowledge to start these initiatives or even improve the quality of their pre-existing products and services. As such, they cannot attract tour operators to send tourists to their areas. So this is the other challenge. The local communities, they are being disadvantaged because they lack the knowledge. They also lack the capital. They lack the know-how in terms of making their places or their cultural places to be known to the world. Because for the world to know that there is a certain interesting cultural resource center, it takes proper advertising and it takes money. It takes money and it takes resources. I'm sorry about that. It actually takes resources instead to do that. So sometimes they even fail to get into contact with the tour operators to advertise their places, to bring tourists into those places. There actually are greater places that have not yet been discovered, but they actually have a potential to boost the tourism industry, actually have a potential to draw attention of quite a number of tourists. A lack of local capacity to manage and develop ecotourism programs, both on the economy and on the community level and at the government level, also make ecotourism hard to develop and maintain. Unsustainable practices. There is evidence of widespread of unsustainable features and practices across all dimensions: environmental, socio-cultural, economic, and administrative. Unsustainability is most often discussed with regards to the following: as tourism overdevelopment, uneven distribution of tourism costs and benefits in communities, and evaluation and exploitation of cultural heritage by tourism. So these are the practices that make sustainability of tourism to be impossible. If the tourism itself is overdeveloped, it actually impacts the cultural heritage resources, as it becomes difficult to implement the measures or to implement the strategies that will help to achieve sustainable tourism. For example, development on its own, overdevelopment instead on its own, is playing a very, 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 very negative impact, a very, very big negative impact on cultural heritage management, because it actually leads to exhaustion of the land, and it actually distorts the originality of the place. Its the authenticity of that area becomes negatively impacted. So overdevelopment on its own, it comes with quite a number of challenges. For example, if the place is overdeveloped, there is an issue to do with overpopulation there. There is an issue to do with depletion of resources. There is an issue to do with dilution of cultures. There is an issue to do with a lot of theft. There is an issue to do with a lot of vandalism. There is a lot that development on its own comes with. So it needs to be implemented, but taken care that it doesn't cause any negative effects to the tourism industry, thereby making sustainability impossible. And even distribution of tourist costs and benefits in the communities. So if the spoils, I may say, if the income generated from tourism is unevenly distributed, it actually impacts sustainability of tourism, because it is the same capital that is supposed to be used to educate the communities. It is the same capital that is supposed to be used to alert the communities, teach them, and implement programs that actually help in sustaining cultural heritage, in sustaining tourism. So if they are not properly, if the funds are not properly channeled, and the local communities not benefiting, this will have a great impact on sustaining tourism. Under evaluation and exploitation of cultural heritage by tourism. Tourism is not supposed to exploit cultural heritage. We understand in most of the African countries this is what is happening. Cultural heritage is being exploited by tourism, as the nations are busy expecting to gain more and more capital at the expense of cultural heritage sites. So it has to be balanced. The cultural heritage sites or cultural heritage has to benefit from tourism. It hasn't. It's not that the tourism doesn't help in building cultural heritage. It does help, but it should not overweigh the cultural heritage. So I think that one is clear over there. Loss of place character and identity. If the place has lost its character and its identity, it becomes very difficult to sustain tourism there. As I said when we were talking about the culture and heritage as a product. So it means if that place has lost its identity, it means the product is no longer consumable, the product is no longer needed by the tourists. So it plays a great role in affecting sustainability of tourism there. Dominance of economic interests and short-term profits over sustainability. That's the other point. Poor impact management and lack of integrated planning and management on all levels. That is clear there. 2 decades after the emergence of the sustainable tourism concept, it is evident that there is still no obligatory regime, no adequate enforcement of sanctions by the state and regional authorities seeking to reduce unsustainable practices. I'm sorry about that. So this is what has been observed, that since this principle of sustainable tourism, or this concept of sustainable tourism has begun, there is quite a few states, or I may say there are no states that have enforced that have got some adequate enforcement on the sanctions that try to reduce unsustainable practices in tourism. So it means that most developing countries has to implement this and make it a mandate that there are sanctions, there are a law enforcement that help to reduce the unsustainable practices in tourism. There is insufficient education, training. There is insufficient education, training, and expertise support on implementing tourism sustainability from the academic and the professional sectors that are mostly knowledgeable on the subject. So more training there, and more educational training has to be implemented, has to be improved, so that the knowledge is spread to all responsible stakeholders, so that they will be able to achieve sustainable tourism. Even with the current unprecedented global rise of the sustainability agenda, evidence shows that cultural resources are still repeatedly damaged and destroyed. So It means that so far whatever measures have been put forward, but it doesn't have that enough impact to try and protect the cultural heritage resources, as they are getting damaged time and again. An increasing number of studies point to the need for significant changes in the global mindset and in tourism governance as part of global progress towards reducing social, cultural, and environmental risk, growth management, and long-term sustainable solutions. If unsustainability is to be successfully reserved, that's according to Dream and Common 1996 in Lalonsky 2011. So this is what these guys are saying, that there should be an increase. The increasing number of studies have pointed the need for a significant change in the global mindset in tourism governance as part of the global process towards reducing social, cultural, and environmental risk. So it talks about these three dimensions of achieving sustainable tourism. It has to be social, it has to be implemented cultural, it has to be implemented environmental. All these risks has to be taken into note so that we will be able to achieve sustainability of tourism. So all in all, that is the practice, the sustainability of tourism. So it is very, very possible to achieve sustainable tourism. That's if each and every tourist, each and every stakeholder who is involved in any tourism facility or who is involved in any other tourism activity bears in mind or takes into note that the heritage, it has to be passed from one generation to the other. Especially to tourists, they have to be taught about sustaining of tourism in whatever cultural heritage place they would have visited. Even the local guides, the local people, they need to be taught, they need to be told about how to implement sustainable tourism, how to take part, how to try to help, and how to conduct sustainable guides. It is very possible to achieve this if all stakeholders work together, all involved parties work together in achieving sustainable tourism. So it remains a challenge to most African countries to try and improve their governments, so that their governments implement more strategies in helping or in improving education, in terms of educating the local communities, even educating the heritage practitioners to have more skill and more knowledge about achieving sustainable tourism, because we are all doing sustainable tourism so as to protect the land, to protect the cultural heritage resources, so that the future generations have an advantage, so that they also use them and pass them to the next generation, so on and so on. So that's the end of our lecture. I will be coming again to make a one-on-one with everyone who might need to have that discussion. Thank you so much.